Season 3, Episode number 1, The Kickoff Party. Fantasy Baseball Statistics for 2021. It's never too early to start preparing. As John Wooden would say, failure to prepare is preparing to fail. And we're not going to let that happen to our baseball fantasy seasons this year. We know that what we're doing here is working as we continue to digest advanced fantasy baseball statistics. Our goal, as always, every season is to take it to the next level and continue doing that. Welcome back in. Thanks for joining in. We know that this is our home for salary cap drafting. But today we're just going to start at 6,000 feet, 60,000 feet, not even 10,000, 60,000 feet. We're going to start with the spreadsheet. I've started, so I don't want to get too far in front of you guys. You know that I got to take you along with me so you know where we're going. And there might be some people that just joined in the season, so we got to start to the basics, but it's going to speed up pretty quickly. What I'm calling this is the helicopter approach. I'm not going to get in with the magnifying glass right away, although we can do that. But we're going to start with the helicopter approach, just floating around all the statistics, all the numbers, everything we can access, all the heuristics. I'm going to talk a little bit about nuance, the nuance of nuance. Usually when people hear the word nuance, they just, shut down. Oh, that's nuance. Stay away from it. But we're going to actually get into the nuance and the nuance of nuance. We're going to go through the tools. First of all, you're going to get out your Excel spreadsheet, as always, every season. I broke mine out already. I'm going to start SP, outfield 1B, second base, shortstop, third base, catchers, and relief pitchers, which we're not going to talk about that much. We do this because SP, it's so key to dominate there, and there's the most of them. And then outfielders, there's a ton of those. Outfielders tend to play a little bit of 1B, so they're close to each other. And then we just come across the diamond, and we can save catchers and RP for later. But typically, I do like to start with hitting. And it's a big landscape. What I mean by the helicopter is I'll come in different waves. I just want to see the stats. I got to see what happened last season in the short season. And then I want to survey a lot of different individual statistics on our different tools, which we're going to get into. And really the goal here is to identify correctly the top players, as we say, the creme de la creme. So we're going to start at the top and we're going to decide who is the number one player for 2021. Who are the other top players? Who do we have to be aware of before getting in there with our tools and dissecting and making some differentiation? So, no one statistic is the end-all be-all statistic here. Each one is kind of a separate little piece of nuance. And people can win one list or another, but you can't be married to one statistic. You're not going to get there by just sorting average or sorting OBP. You're going to have to look at everything and really kind of decide where are we at with this player for next season. So the first tool, as always, is going to be Fangraphs, fangraphs.com. We're going to click in there. I already have it open. Just orienting the tools here. Leaders. Highlight leaders, you get a drop down, batting 2020. The data pops up. And let's not even touch it. We got 30 names here, and Fangraphs wants to sort by WAR, wins against replacement. And I dig in a little bit to what the statistic is measuring, and wins against replacement is heavily run sorted. And we would never really draft directly from WAR, but it's a good metric. It's a good metric from year to year. It's safe, it's comfortable. One little tool here, you can slide down to your page size. It's already at 30. We can drop it to 50, and we can just go a little bit deeper on our WAR. Just glancing across, we know, let's get it, let's not hide the ball here. We had a shortened season. The MLB season is supposed to be 162 games. We only played 60. 60 games is about 37% of what a full season would be. So this is the challenge this season, guys. Just flat out, what do we do with a shortened season when we know that in baseball we need to get our numbers over a long period of time? 37%, this could be simply after an all-star break. This was a small sample size for everybody. And how are we going to interpret that, and how are we going to use it versus a 2019 full statistic? So right off the top, the 60-game sample size is an issue. We're sorting by WAR. Let's just glance. Let's just stay light here and know what I'm looking for as I'm trying to find the best players in the game. And there really aren't any surprises early. Jose Ramirez. We know Jose can be up and down. He's broken some hearts, but he's power speed combo. He got off to a hot start. Freddie Freeman, no surprise. Mookie, Fernando Tatis Jr., Rendon, Trey Turner. Sure, there's a surprise there. Mike Yastrzemski. So we'll have to deal with some of the surprises on the list as we go, but we're just trying to find the best players. So on a shortened season, the things I jump, my eye scans across here and I see BB percentage to K percentage, how much you're walking versus how much you're striking out. Where walking will be consistently getting on base, will be getting to look at better pitches, but strikeout rate is going to lead to inconsistency in dry spots. But another one we're going to really have to keep our eye on here is that BABIP, batting average on balls in play. And this is our luck metric. Did somebody get lucky? Was their average especially high because they were getting lucky on BABIP? Were they unlucky? And 300 is kind of the average. So the numbers that jump out here, Freddie had a great season, which we expect from Freddie. We know he's a professional hitter. But he had a 366 BABIP, pushing a 340 average. What are we going to do with that there? Another person who really blew up last season, Marcella Zuna, a 391 BABIP for a 338 average. And it's hard for me to say that across 162 games that Marcelo Zuna would have held almost a 340 average because he had a ridiculous 390 BABIP. But in just 60 games, that really becomes possible to him. So we're going to scan across those. Of course, feel free to sort any of these. Sort WOBA, sort weighted runs created plus. It's just going to give you more information. You can sort counting metrics, sort home runs. But this season, it's hard to really determine on a short season. Just from the top of the list, we've got guys hitting between 19 and 12 home runs. We've got base stealing on the range of 15 from Trevor Story, down to 10 or 12 from the other guys. So it's going to be hard to project, were they really going to double up these bases? Does that make Jose, Mookie, Tatis, and Trey Turner all 20-plus base stealers next season? We're going to have to see. We're going to mix in some sprint speed eventually. So that's just where we're going to start. One tool, FanGraphs. But like I said, I don't want to go too deep. Okay, there are the names. We're going to go to my spreadsheet, but let's move across. Another critical tool in our arsenal is powered by StatCast, and this is Baseball Savant. It's at baseballsavant.mlb.com. Savant is S-A-V-V-A-N-T, Baseball Savant. So we're living here. This is StatCast data, and what's interesting is this is different data than FanGraphs data. So I definitely have to use both of them, but I wouldn't say that one thing is really going to give me the solution. That's the work that we do onto the spreadsheet. Baseball Savant, you pop in, you click on leaderboards, and immediately pops up players. And what is it sorted by in Baseball Savant is barrels. And the number one name on the list, get very excited, is Fernando Tatis Jr. with a 12.5 barrel rate. Oh my goodness. I'm not going to hide the ball here, so I want to mention a couple names as we go across. Let's just get it out on the list right now, and then we can back it up as we move through these stats. My number one overall player this year is the 22-year-old Juan Soto, who is just unbelievable. And I know I'm doubling back here a little bit to your FanGraphs. And one of the reasons Juan Soto on the FanGraphs, he was walking 21% of the time to 14% strikeouts. When guys are walking more than they're striking out, that is guaranteed money in the bank production next season. That's an absolutely ridiculous batting eye from a 22-year-old. Juan Soto is set to be an MVP candidate for the next decade, and I'm not going to miss out there in that kind of eye. It reminds you of a young Mike Trout, where Mike is turning 20. He's 29 now. He's turning 30, where his age is starting to catch up with him a little bit. But Juan Soto is the number one guy as we move across this list. The reason I point this out is because there you have Corey Seeger, number 3 on the barrel list. We see him again, Juan Soto, with 11.7 barrels. Oh my goodness. So we'll go over the definition of the barrel later, but it's a blend of exit velocity and launch angle. And we know from last season that sometimes guys that strike the ball very hard are able to get a barrel at a lower angle. And the reverse is also true. Guys with a high launch angle can get barrels without as much exit velo. So there's a tension there that we have to pick apart. You can scan the list: Tatis, Seeger, Juan Soto, Eloy Jimenez. So these names are just starting to pop up. Oh, Eloy, is he breaking out for me a little bit? Bryce Harper up at number 8. We really love to see him there. This is one subtlety, and I don't know how I discovered it this year, and I'm going to give it to you. And it is under the hard hit list on Baseball Savant. You see 95 mile per hour plus. And what I learned as we get into is that hard hit probably should be hard contact, because not all of those 95 mile per hour plus hits were actually hits. Those were strikes. So that's like hard strike or hard contact, not truly hit, which is a little bit of nuance I discovered. And where we're going to find that is Baseball Savant has treated us to some new tools here. So we're going to dive in a little bit deeper on the new tools of Baseball Savant. I've got to show you some of these things. So let's just unhide the ball. Let's just give it to you. My number 1 player is Juan Soto. My number 2 player is Mike Trout. So we can just get it out of the way. Mikey is only 29 years old. He is a perennial, every season, first ballot Hall of Famer with ridiculous numbers. A good thing, go on Baseball Savant, click on Mike Trout's player page, and just be in awe of the red highlights of just the annual, year-to-year, every season dominance of Mike Trout. Oh my God, percentile rankings, just red, just a sea of red, a sea of dominance throughout his whole career. So we can just set Soto and set Mike Trout apart. Number 1 and number 2. And I'm going to take Soto because you'll understand that our theory here is always is young upside. And going further down the list, so a lot of guys pop up. Freddie Freeman had a good year. Jose Ramirez, Marcella Zuna. But we know those guys. We know how old that they're getting a little bit. And I don't know if I'm prepared to just catapult them into the first round when there's 2 particular names that I'm going to focus on, and they're the juniors. Ronald Acuna Jr. and Fernando Tatis Jr. And what I realize is right behind those first 2 preeminent sluggers is going to be, do I prefer Ronald Acuna Jr. or Fernando Tatis Jr.? And really comparing those 2 players on every single metric. So here I'm going to break you into a brand new tool on Baseball Savant, somewhat of a mind-blowing tool to some degree. It's almost like we ask and we shall receive. As I said, I'd really like to be able to tease out exit velo. I'd like to be able to move it around. And somehow Baseball Savant reads my mind. And if you click on the player page for Ronald Acuna and then the player page for Fernando Tatis Jr., read underneath that picture of Ronald Acuna with his bat back, probably ripping a double or something. There's pitch highlighter, player apps, pitch highlighter, player similarity shifts, swing take profile, which we discovered last season, which hasn't yet yielded the most results, but tells us a little something about their propensity to swing and the overall eye of the player. And there's an IC Illustrator. Illustrator? What? We don't know about that. So click on Illustrator, and unbelievable here. What we have is a picture of the zone, a picture of all the drop downs of all the different types of pitches they could see, and then sliders of pitch velocity, exit velocity, and launch angle. Oh my gosh. So we're getting granular, and I'm just going to pop in here and pop out because this is a new tool, and I want you to see it early because we're going to be picking some things apart. And I used it a little bit on these 2's player comparison. And one thing I'm able to do here is use the slider under launch angle and say, oh, I want a launch angle greater than, which is the caret open to the word launch angle greater than the other thing, of 15. And let's say I want an exit velocity greater than 95 is the hard hit rate, but I want to see velocities over 100. And so when I slide that over, it gives you the batting averages and the outcomes of those hits. I do it here for Ronald, 100 exit velo and a 95 for launch angle, greater than, and he's hit 14 home runs, the 733 average, a 120 WOBA, a 106 average exit velocity. So just on those pitches, it even shows where he likes it. Ronald has great left to right plate coverage, can go out and reach low over the outside edge of the plate, and it's a little different than where Tatis Jr. likes it. So, what are we going to do with these metrics? What am I going to figure out on this? But what I figure out when I'm trying to sort, because from the leaderboard with the 95 mile per hour hard hit, I went down to the individual statistics, and it wasn't hits. The hits didn't match up. So 95 mile per hour plus really was just contact. And then there's a batting average and so on applied to that. Oh, that makes a huge difference. So you could see guys that are hacking and constantly swinging getting more 95 mile per hour plus strikes as opposed to good pure contact. So it's just something to be aware of. These are a couple of our tools, and we'll be sorting all through this eventually, showing some of our tricks. If you want to get cute, yes, sort 95 mile per hour plus hits, and you'll see some of the issues. You'll see how hitting it hard, but decreasing the launch angle where they change the color coding. You'll see where some guys are flat, why they don't hit home runs. You also see as you slide down, you'll get some pops, you'll get some ideas of breakouts. We get all into that, but let's keep going. We have to keep helicoptering across all of our tools. One more thing. Before we leave the Savant, we had one more thing. So the leaderboard typically is going to go to exit velocities and barrels, but in the top right corner of the screen, there's a drop down and switch over to expected statistics. And this is another stat that's only true of Baseball Savant. It's xWOBA, expected WOBA. It's sorted. Look who we have there. Juan Soto, number one again. Yet again, Freddie Freeman, Bryce Harper, Marcella Zuna, Corey Seeger, Mike Trout. They're all there. Tatis Jr., he's right there. Brandon Belt, It's surprise. So that, we'll deal with the surprises. But it doesn't mean I'm going to suddenly fall in love with Brandon Belt and make him a second-round pick. No way. Ronald Acuna Jr., not too far behind. But again, I can see there's that Tatis Jr., Acuna Jr. tight cluster to sort out. So a couple of the stats that we're using, and you can sort across those fields. So we got in the Illustrator, just, it's overwhelming at first, but if you take it a little piece at a time, I hope to have some more reasons to use it. I didn't care how much of fastballs they were dealing with. I mean, maybe at some point I might be interested who can handle hard heat and who can't. I did want to see between Tatis and Ronald who hit it consistently over 100 miles per hour, maybe who had more loft. So we can do that just on the player pages to make some distinction here. So I'm on Fernando Tatis Jr. player page on Baseball Savant. We slide down. Of course, there's some nice sliders showing how effective he is there. We see a barrel percentage of 95, and we see the real secret to his success. It's an exit velocity of 95.9. I just know from previous seasons he is stinging the baseball. That is Aaron Judge-like sting to the baseball. But the launch angle is only 8.7. And I like a launch angle of somewhere between 10, 12 plus. Mike Trout's up at 18. So Tatis Jr. is getting more barrels because he's hitting it hard, not necessarily for the angle. And that's something that we'd have to look at. We can shift it over and we can look at Ronald. We can see that Ronald, we like an exit velocity uptick to 92.4 from 90, hitting it harder, and a launch angle uptick, 18.6 for the launch angle for Ronald. So Ronald is going to consistently be hitting for power. There's no questions there. Not that I think Tatis can't, but this is where the hitters are slightly different. Ronald is hitting for that more loft. Let's go back and get another comparison here. There's going to be some plate discipline that we like so much. We scroll down, batted ball profile, Tatis Jr., all field, pulling straight, a little bit of oppo. You got that sexy barrel percentage of 15.9, but a solid hit of only 7.7. Just to keep in mind, and the other comparison we're making is on plate discipline, is on that zone contact, 76%, chase of 25%, his chase contact. So those are good. What is Ronald doing on his plate discipline? Ronald's zone contact 73, but his chase is only 20. And we're going to go back, we'll double back to Fangraphs and see it there a little bit more clearly. But Ronald really cutting down his chase. And that's showing that he's making that first step to commanding the plate, to making pitchers come to him inside the zone, where Tatis is going out and getting stuff and being more aggressive. And I think over the course of a full season, that might show that Ronald is a little bit more mature of a hitter. But who knows? There's a lot of other factors to debate. So let's leave our baseball savant for a second as we helicopter over to another tool. And this season, because I like it for so many other sports, is Baseball Reference. Baseball-reference.com. And they've got stats, but they hide them a little bit. So let me help you find them. You're going to click on seasons. It gives you a drop down. Go to leaders, batting. It gives you a drop down. And you wonder, why didn't I get a list of stats? What is this? And they give you stats over a bunch of different metrics, and they just tell you the first player. It's not very useful, but it's hiding. So on the gray bar that starts a 2020 MLB season, you can slide across to batting, and you get another drop down. There it is. There's standard batting. But Baseball Savant, they're really hiding this. You got to keep searching in here. You go, oh, teams. Why are you only giving me teams? But just scroll down, and now there it is. There's players. And it's interesting. They don't pick a stat. They sort by last name. That's not going to do anyone any good. So let's pick OPS plus. OPS plus, a stat that I'm really only finding on Baseball Savant. If you search MLB.com, they like OPS. OPS is on base percentage plus slugging. You just merge the numbers. You just marry on base percentage with slug. You add them, you get OPS. And what I really like about Baseball Reference is that if you just scroll over the stat, it'll tell you the stuff that's going in the stew to make the stat. So OBP, hits with walks over at bats, basically. It's how they get on base with the walks mixed in. But slug is how many singles, doubles, triples, home runs with a weighted scale. More of a power statistic. Add those up and you get a pretty good metric for the player. And we sort by OPS plus. The plus because it's adjusted for ballpark. And there he is again, Juan Soto. My number one overall pick for this season. And not a lot of other surprises. Freddie Freeman, DJ LeMahieu, the much sought after free agent this season. Where is he going to land at 31 years old? Marcella Zuna, Nelson Cruz. A big surprise from Dominic Smith, looking into was a former first-round draft pick. How serious do we have to get about Dominic Smith? But not yet. It's too early. We're just 60,000. We swoop down to 10,000 a little bit. Mike Trout is there. Down a little slower. Look at them married together. Ronald Acuna Jr. at 17. Fernando Tatis Jr. at 18. Both with 155 OPSs. How do we tease them apart? And the reason you say, well, why DailyJLee? Why are you going down for Ronald Acuna and Tatis Jr. when Freddie Freeman is a 186? When Marcella Zuna had an amazing 175 OPS plus? Well, because Marcella Zuna's BABIP was unsustainable, and he's 29 years old, and he's about to experience the aging curve. Ronald Acuna and Tatis Jr. are 22 and 21 years old, dominating baseball, getting ready to have Mike Trout-like careers, and I believe perennial MVP candidates. We don't know what the step forward is. We don't know what these guys are going to do in the offseason. So I am banking on that huge step forward that we see from young players. But let's go a little further in our baseballreference.com tool. that batting drop down, you have standard batting. And stick with me because these are gems. These are gems here. The drop down under batting, there's advanced batting. We click into that. Again, you got to really dig. They start with teams. I don't want teams, I want players. We get down to player advanced batting, and we have a whole new array of metrics here. It's again sorted by last name, so we've got to pick one of these, and you can go through them. You can check runs created by game. That's a good stat. We're going to eventually go through all of these to juggle these players, to find sleepers, to know what we're getting, particularly jumping back to 2019, because I think that the sample size might be a little bit small. 60 games, but the one I really want to slide you all the way over here is to Tot A. Tot A. Nobody has this. The Savant doesn't have it. Fangraphs doesn't have it. Just Baseball Reference. They have developed by Thomas Boswell of the Washington Post. He's going to combine total bases with hit by pitch, walks, stolen bases over at bats, or his own little formula for Tot A. Sort. Number 1 overall, Juan Soto. It keeps happening. I'm not going to debate it. 1.5 of a Tot A. And here you go. We get our first glimpse. Number 3, Freddie Freeman. Number 4, Marcella Zuna. Number 3, Marcella Zuna. Number 4, Ronald Acuna Jr. Slightly outperforming a Fernando Tatis Jr. by 0.1%. He's up on him about 10 slots. We've got an Acuna Jr. The first whiff that he might be a better hitter than Tatis Jr. And again, they're the children of this group, really up high in this. We see a Brandon Lowe, a little surprise at 16. So we start getting these names. They're not going right on the list right now. I'm trying to sort out who the absolute best hitters are. And so it just makes me think about, roster resource is one thing we're going to use a lot. Rosterresource.com, who was recently purchased by Fangraphs. So now when you go into the teams, and I think there really was an Atlanta Braves effect, that lineup was so stacked with Acuna at 1, and then Freddie, and then Azuna, mixed in with Albies, mixed in with a resurgent Dansby Swanson, that they just put pressure on pitchers. Good hitting ballpark. All those guys just had terrorizing pitchers type seasons, sharing information, competing with each other, really wearing down pitchers. They all had a great season. And I think Ozuna will be missed, a free agent this season. If he does leave Atlanta, he'll be missed from the lineup in Atlanta a little bit. So there's another. So Tot A is one to look at. Secondary average has its own equation. Just click on Sec A. Number 1, Soto. Number 2, Acuna Jr. with a Bryce Harper who sorted out a lot of his contact issues, guys. I'm telling you right now, I'm back on the Bryce chain. All aboard. Freddie Freeman, Mike Trout at number 5. Nothing has slipped. Nothing's diminished there. Jose Ramirez, you don't have to go far to see Tatis Jr. at number 9. You get into some more surprises. It gets spotty. You'll see the names there. So that's just another tool we got to go through, is a little bit of Baseball Reference. Click on one more of these. Click on Power Speed. It's Power PWRSPD, a power speed metric that somebody developed with home runs and bases. It just wants it. Home runs and our two favorite things, power and speed. And there we have Tatis Jr., number 1. Story, Ramirez, Betts, Trey Turner, Ronald Acuna at 8, Bryce Harper at 10. So these are the guys that still take some bases, obviously still have some speed, and there's not much speed in the league anymore. So these guys are going to obviously have it hands down. But there's Tatis Jr. at number 1, and the explosiveness that he possesses, tantalizing this season. A couple other tools, obviously, Roto World for health, for updates. You can also go back to history to see how the health of some players has gone, if they've recovered from injuries. We might get a little bit of a late start to the season because the MLB is looking at like a vaccination program, or they're nervous because of the virus. But I want 162 games. I don't want a short season. I want as much baseball as I can get to make this season really, really worth it. So these are the tools. I've got one more little thing. I just, as we go to the next level and we propose theories and we test them out, I'm not going to be one dimensional. I want to dominate hitting and I want to dominate pitching. And every year, depending on how I fluctuate, I got to be better at pitching. I got to be better at hitting. I keep fighting it. So I just want to tease pitching here. And I think whereas I usually go hitting really deep, I'm going to kind of ping pong us around because I really want that mutual integrated value of guaranteed stud hitters. But where do the pitchers fit in so that I can really be one-to-one moving down my draft list and applying prices? And obviously, we're almost never going to talk about ADP except to clown it and to know that it exists as we make our own list and we figure out ways to dominate salary cap drafts. Don't say auction anymore, it's salary cap now. But let's just tease a little bit of pitching because I did. And I don't want to hide the ball from you guys. I want you guys to know where I'm going with this. And I see that a Shane Bieber won a Cy Young. Shane. Woo, love it. And we mentioned Shane, and I go back and I remember that struggle I had with Shane. I was like, is Shane the number 4 overall pitcher? Is Shane the 13th pitcher? And it just back and forth. And we said last season that the reason we had to do Shane here is because of the low walks. Because he paints. And walks is the best low walks is the best indicator of control. Just got to shift over to machines here because I want to get a look. And this is just to show you where our heads are going to be at for pitching. A little bit here. I'm pulling up some Shane. He obviously has an amazing season, but I go down. It's where we really lived a little bit last season was in pitch mix. And inside pitch mix on Baseball Savant, Shane Bieber's individual page, scroll down, pitch tracking. And we get to see the individual pitches. Just talk 2019 at first when Shane Bieber was a very good pitcher. He sits 93 with the hot stuff. He's got a slider with a 43% whiff rate and a curveball with a 48% whiff rate. And so we know that these individual tools, these whiff rates on these tools, anything plus 40 is elite. Having one of them is good, having two is great. How many high whiff pitches does a player have in their arsenal? But let's look at what happened to Shane Bieber from 2019 to 2020. Starting with his four-seam fastball velocity, he reaches back for a tick and is throwing 94 over his 93 average from the season before. Some of this, again, small sample. You've got to just speculate. We don't know. I didn't get to call, hey, Shane, were you reaching back for more because you knew you were only going to pitch a short season? And given that you didn't have to go 27 starts, you maybe only had to go 10 or 11, that you were throwing harder? That's just speculation at this point, but he's throwing harder. This is the thing. He adds a cutter. Shane adds a cutter. What? So Shane goes from a 4-pitch mix to a 5-pitch mix, and this is why we like young upside. This is why we wonder why young upside, what it might do in the offseason, that Shane goes and tinkers with the pitch. Pitch mix is going to lead to keeping guys more off balance. Typically, guys will add a cutter when they're losing a little bit on their four-seam to get some movement, to keep guys off of basically the Mariano Rivera way to pitch. But Shane didn't lose velocity. He's just adding in another pitch with movement. So he goes to a 5-pitch mix, but this is where it gets scary. This is where it gets this scary. Look at the whiff rates. Look at the whiff rates. The curveball from 48% whiff rate last season to 51% whiff rate. What? Shane's slider that was 43% in 2019 goes to a 61% whiff rate? Shane, what are you doing? He had a changeup that wasn't getting strikeouts in 2019, a whiff rate of only 21%. He starts to use it a little bit less. He uses it only to lefties. He shelves it versus righties. He's getting a 53% whiff rate on his change. So he suddenly makes the change into an out pitch. He's got 3 out pitches. The fastball up a mile per hour goes from a 13% whiff to a 25% whiff. The whiffs are up on the fastball, let alone mixing in a cutter at 89. The batting average, I don't know why he's using it. It gave him another tool. It's got a whiff rate of 33%, more whiffs than the fastball. So Shane goes into the lab, adds a pitch, absolutely unbelievable. I'd like to get one little breakdown for Shane that you'll get to see. If you scroll down, we get some visuals. We get the StatCast arsenal of what he's doing with these pitches. And you see a very tight clustering. The four-seam fastball, it looks like he's obviously pounding inside to righties. He can go up high with it. He can get it for a strike. The curveball, he just stayed down. He's just down. Nothing's up. He hung nothing. He hung nothing at all. Look at where the cutter is. Look at where the cutter just painting the inside of the plate. It's in and down. It's in tight. Some of them are for strikes. Some of them are just too tight to really be handled. Nothing's up. Nothing's away lost. He's just painting with it. The slider he's painting even further. So what he might be doing is he's switching between a cutter and a slider that's making him look invisible. The slider's off the plate. The slider's never for strikes. But the cutter is painting for strikes. Oh my God, Shane Bieber was painting. Look at where he was working. And he's got a changeup that's never up, that's never down. And I'm just looking at the red zones. I'm on Shane Bieber's Baseball Savant page, StatCast Pitch Arsenal. We get to look at where they're hitting. They show us red and blue of where he's landing with the ball. The changeup is for strikes. It's right over the plate. So if he's working occasionally up with the fastball, or the change is dropping down for a strike, and then he's got the low change that he's pounding, which is low, not in the dirt, just below the zone, just something to whiff over, something that's getting a 53% whiff rate. Shane Bieber, absolute paint. And that's where we're just going to tease a little bit. We're just going to tease where we were. We've got more about chase and zone contact and velo that we'll get into, but let's just teasing the former Cy Young player. As you know, we'll look at those elite pitchers to use them as a comparison to see how guys are able to work. And right now, Shane Bieber is going to work. Could he maintain those whiff rates over a full 262-game season versus a 60-game? I don't know, because 250-plus whiffs with a 61 whiff as a fifth pitch with 94 cheddar? Shane is set up to get another Cy Young. So let's just tease. Let's just give you a little homework. Let you know where I'm going next is that I'm looking at 2020 and I'm looking at 2019. And I know there's some players that fall off and there's not a lot of mystery. Any one of these guys can jump up. And I'm just going to rattle off some names that we've kind of have to dissect and project where they're going next season. Mookie Betts. Marcella Zuna, Bryce Harper. At 1B, obviously Freddie Freeman all over the charts. Jose Abreu had a great year with the high BABIP. Jose Ramirez was the real winner from last season. We can't forget the shortstop group of Trey Turner, Trevor Story. But see, for me, Trevor is not going to come up and get Tatis Jr. for me at this point, but he's going to be in the dialogue for top 10, top 15. Corey Seeger, finally healthy, had a very good year. We're probably going to be up there dissecting what he did, getting his name in our mind. Anthony Rendon, a professional hitter. I think he might be walking more than he's striking out, so we love that. Manny Machado decided he wanted to get his game on with Tatis Jr. and a surging San Diego Padres team. But what happened to Christian Yelich? Something happened to him. We'll get into Christian Yelich's plate discipline and where he disappeared to. Is it the fractured kneecap? Is it that he's not able to generate power because the injury hasn't healed up? Will it be healed by next season? Are you ready to take Christian Yelich with your number 3 overall pick? Not this season, I'm not. But we can't forget about him. Cody Bellinger. I love some Cody Bellinger. George Springer. Pete Alonso, who I was very high on. And you know that I'm not going to have biases and overreact. Yeah, I went back with the Pete Alonso. last season as my number 5. And maybe it was cat and mousey for Pete last season. They got a book on him. They said, this young slugger hit 50 bombs. He's not getting me this season. He had a target on his back, and nobody wanted to get hit by a Pete Alonso. But I got to go back to the well again because Pete is a pure hitter. Maybe a Nolan Arenado and Aaron Bregman. And the names will just keep coming, but we're going to start from the top. Juan Soto, Mike Trout, Ronald Acuna Jr., Fernando Tatis Jr. My top 4 picks heading into the 2020-21 season. Fantasy baseball statistics, guys. Welcome back. Let's get after it.